Good day, everyone. I'm Kenny Veith from ACT Research, the president and seniorist of analysts at the company, having been here for this is my 31st year. Today, I'm joined by Ann Rundle, our newest analyst, and we're going to talk about the ACT Research Class 8 tractor dashboard. So with that, Ann, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. So Ann Rundle, I've been in the transportation industry for ever since I got out of school as an engineer, and have recently joined ACT Research. I spent 20 years with Eaton and strategy, looking at automotive and truck and transportation, and spent 3 years with Fiat Chrysler heading up electrification strategy for both light motor vehicle as well as commercial vehicles. So it's kind of interesting now to be part of ACT Research and get to be on the side of not a supplier, not an OEM, but the folks who are helping those people. Kenny, I think, when I first came on board and I was looking at all the different things you guys do and the interesting and cool stuff, this tractor dashboard came up as one of the innovations that ACT Research does, and you were kind of talking about how you guys came to realize you needed to do something like this. So maybe you could elaborate on when it was you guys had that aha moment to say, we should do something like this.
Yeah, sure. And thanks. I think one thing that Ann didn't mention in her background is prior to joining Eaton Corporation, she was an engineer designing yachts, designing boats, designing yachts, ships.
Yachts, yeah, racing sailboats, and then also in big shipbuilding. So kind of from one very extreme to the very, very big extreme. So I loved looking at the Ever Given and what was happening, because it was like, wait a minute, I know those kind of ships.
Yeah, interesting stuff. So enough for that detour. So I've got the current view up right now, and maybe to answer your question, Ann, what I need to do is go back to the genesis of this particular analysis, and so I put myself in the I'll just put 2015 basically in front of us here, and as we were going through 2015, I want to say we were probably 2, maybe arguably even 3 months late in making the downturn call in the marketplace, and you can kind of see things are going along swimmingly at the beginning of 2015, and the wheels start to come off in April and May of 2015, and granted, the data is always going to be lagged, so you're not getting April data until May, and so on and so forth, I think we should have been making the downturn call in certainly by July of 2015. We should have been making the downturn call, and I don't think we got around to making the downturn call until August or kind of the end of August, or maybe slightly the beginning of September. So kind of having missed the opportunity to provide ultimate value to our customers and catch the turn, I sat down with Jim Meal, and we, in hindsight, we were able to look at all of these indicators and say, you could see the wheels falling off, and why didn't any of us, and at that time it was Jim Meal, Steve Tam, and myself, 3, who I think are pretty good analysts, and none of us said, wait a minute, there's something going on here, and so kind of in the post-mortem, Jim and I sat down and we developed this dashboard. So in thinking about Class 8 demand, and there's kind of three components to it, and looking at the dashboard, you'll notice there's 15 different components. Looking over here on the far left side, we've got the macro data. So that's basically economic data. So the economy generates freight. And so if you look at the 5 variables that we have for the economy, it's non-auto durable goods, consumer spending on goods, residential construction. I guess I forgot the ISM index at the top, and then the Dow Jones Truck Stock Index. Granted, what's that saying that Wall Street has predicted 15 of the last 4 recessions, but there are a bunch of smart people buying these buying these stocks. So the first question is the economy generating freight? And then we go to the next 5 metrics in the index, and they turn from is the economy generating freight to what's happening in the trucking market. So we've got the American Trucking Association's truckloads index, so are loads growing or shrinking? And we will be in a reasonably short term, we will be replacing the ATA's loads index with the Cass shipments index. But then we look at 3 DAT series. What's the load to truck ratio? The spread between contract and spot rates, we find that to be a very good predictor of carrier profitability. Then we look specifically at the dry van spot rate, because dry vans are the vast majority, but certainly call it 60% of the freight in the United States is dry van related specifically. And then we look at the ATA's loads index, percent change in the loads index relative to the percent change in the tractor population. So as long as you've got more freight coming into the market than trucks, it should be good for carrier profits. So the thinking goes. And then, finally, we look at industry specific metrics. Our cancellations are truckers saying, we are uncomfortable with the level of equipment we have in the backlog, and do we need to cancel things? We look at the inventory to sales ratio as a guide for whether the industry is going to build more or less trucks. And then actually we look at the inventory at an absolute level as well, because we do think that inventory number has significant bearing on industry production in kind of the coming 3 to 6 month period. Then we look at net orders to build, which is essentially we could just have backlog, but net order to build ratio, are we ordering more trucks relative to building more trucks, or are we ordering less trucks relative to production? And then we finally, ACT Research has a for-hire trucking survey that we do monthly with about 50 or 60 trucking companies that participate, and we take the volume index, the freight volume index minus the capacity addition index, and we look at those. So we don't weight any metric more than the others. So each one of these guys gets a metric rating of either a green gets a +1, a neutral rating gets a 0, and a negative rating gets a -1. And then we at the very top of the page, you can see we've got the green minus red tally, and that's the way it works. So where are we right now? Coming across up.
Yeah. So just a question, and you mentioned a little bit about the intention to change the ATA loads to the Cass report. When you guys first did this back in 2015, and you're all really smart guys in understanding this. What made you decide to pick some of these as the proper indicators? Was it a no-brainer, or did you guys talk about some different indicators that could have been and you discarded them and wanted to just keep to those ones as being more representative?
Yeah, so our objective was to find data points with leading that led more often than not on the order trend. Let's see if I scroll down here. Let's see. You can see down here there's still where we were using different metrics. We would have loved to use used vehicle prices, because obviously we want to highlight ACT research metrics as much as possible, but try as we might, used truck prices at best are coincident and even tend to be lagging. So we didn't just randomly choose metrics. We did go, I would say we probably went through about 40 different metrics before arriving on these these particular 15. And I would say between Jim and I, we've got 70 years experience in the industry, so it wasn't like we were throwing darts. The darts that we were throwing, to the extent that we were throwing darts, they were selectively chosen darts. So anyway, we did go through a process and found what we believed were the best indicators. And if I make a switch here.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I've known of Jim for ever since my career at Eaton, and I've known of you guys as a result of that. And that's the thing, is that it becomes a no-brainer for you guys because you're in it, and for people like me who try to pretend to understand things from an economist's viewpoint, it's kind of like, okay, yeah, there was a process. That's me being the engineer. Where's the process in it? But also, you guys know this stuff so well that you were able to say, yeah, this, and this are going to help us, give these kind of leading indicators. Yeah. So,
and I think the important thing there is, in thinking about, economic activity, one of my favorite sayings is, there's no freight in a haircut. So I can go and I can go spend, $30 and get my haircut, and I've created $30 in economic activity and zero freight.
Yeah.
I suppose there's a little spritz of this or that goes into my hair, but essentially speaking, so starting with the economic activity, and certainly one of the challenges in this cycle has been the change in consumer spending from being predominantly services. It still is predominantly services, but the significant shift from services spending to goods spending. American consumers, the money is burning a hole in your pocket. So if you're not spending it eating out or going to a hotel or buying an airfare, you decided to spend it on Amazon instead. And I've pulled up this chart, and this chart can be found in the along with the dashboard in the Outlook every month on the same page. And historically, and I think you get to it's different this time example in the current market, but you can go back and look at the what we've done here is the green and red bars represent the dashboard. Excuse me. And the black line is U.S. Class 8 tractor net orders, seasonally adjusted. And what we've done also is we've taken the dashboard here and we've advanced it 4 months to provide some predictive power. And at least in the 2013 to 15 cycle, the dashboard did a very nice job of predicting both the upside and the downside in Class 8 order activity. Likewise, in the 2017 to 2019 cycle, again, that 4-month lead time did a very nice job of predicting the upside and the downside on orders. Sadly, in the current cycle, and I do believe it's this the significant shift in consumer spending. The dashboard was basically coincident with the shift in orders. So you look and say, Kenny, actually the dashboard lagged. And you have to remember that we pushed the dashboard forward by 4 months. So if you roll it backwards, it ends up being coincident here. But this is, I think basically, performance is good, and I would expect going forward, we should still see that 4-month, kind of positive, that 4-month lead, both on the upside and the downside. And I think it's, it's kind of like the one ring to rule them all. We always encourage people to, use as many indicators and always rely on their favorite indicators. But I do think, this does a nice job of distilling a lot of information into an easy to understand concept that looks at the macro level economic, activity. Is freight being created? It looks at kind of the freight metrics, getting to, load to truck ratios, and are truckers making money? And then, also looking at, what I like to call the ACT data, which is, which side of the inventory cycle are we on? Are truckers feeling comfortable with the orders they have on the books? Is the backlog growing or shrinking? So, here we are. So, Anne, any other thoughts or questions here?
I'm not an economist, and Jim can tell you that I've always chosen to be in strategy and operations type of things. But I go back in, but I'm the engineer, so I'm like, okay, if we had changed something differently, would that have brought the green? Would we have matched more closely those truck orders or not? And I wondered a lot. Part of me says, okay, you guys are changing. We're going to go to the CAS. Would that have made a difference? And would that have been able to show us more on the leading edge of this? Or would we have always said what happened and the phenomena because of the pandemic would have been very difficult to forecast anyway?
Yeah, I think it's that it's different this time, situation with consumer spending. And just the size of consumers in the U.S. economy. Like I said, we don't weight anything. Mm-hmm. Perhaps if we weighted consumer spending, we might have gotten a trigger sooner. But if you go back and look at consumer spending didn't turn positive, until July of 2020 here. If given our lack of weighting, if you look at the ATA's truckloads, index, it's somewhat confusing here in row 15, where it actually turns negative in April 20, which makes sense given the downturn in the economy in the second quarter of 2020. But we go all the way through. It's actually getting better in January of 21, and then it gets worse in February of 21. So it's like, if you just go down February of 21, we've got 12 positive indicators, we've got 2 neutral indicators, and we've got 1 negative indicator.
Yeah, 1 outlier.
And it's I don't. We feel that the ATA's loads index has become perhaps less representative, but in replacing it with CAS, I want to say the CAS didn't turn positive until I think around October. So it was even late to the party because I think the overall economy contracted by 3.8% last year. As a result, freight volume or the demand side of the equation remained negative into September and October. One thing we might consider adding is driver supply, and if there's really a story in the second half of 2020, it's that supply matters.
And that's the thing. And you guys, even in our last seminar, Summer 64, there was that discussion about availability of drivers and how does that change this? But as you look at it, and I go back, I'm the engineer, but I think I can appreciate the trees and the forest. I think I've gotten smart enough as I've grown older that you want to I'm sitting there going, well, let me look at the cancellations. Maybe that's what's driving it. And then I say to myself, well, you idiot, this is the reason why there's three categories, there's 5 in each, is that if you would only look at just one indicator, you wouldn't pick this. And you guys figured this out and you said, hey, if we're only looking at one indicator, we're not seeing the aggregate of all these impacts. So I think that's, to me, and obviously that's why you guys did, and that's why we have this dashboard, is to say one indicator alone isn't going to do it, but these are the ones that are representative, and as they start to change, then that's going to change is it going to be a good year for trucking, or is it going to be a bad year for trucking? And all of the people, I think of in my former life as a supplier, we were always on top of things like cancellations and inventory, and that kind of stuff, but probably not always necessarily looking at things like the freight side of it. So it says, duh, this is why ACT knows what they're doing, because you guys have said, yeah, it's not just this, it's all of these. And sometimes when there's a weird thing like the pandemic, who would have thought of it? And you go back into March, look at those huge cancellations in March of 2020. But we had thought maybe it was going to be over in 2 weeks or a month, right? And then it was like, but it's still not getting better. So you can't just look at one thing.
You're playing with fire. I think if you only look at one indicator, and this conversation about supply. When you started talking, I took the time to write myself a note that we probably should add a driver metric, to this because we're looking almost exclusively at the demand side and perhaps not appreciating enough the supply side of the equation is there as well. I will say that if I could only have one metric, it would be the dry van spot rate. Spot rates are if I was going to gamble, that dry van spot rate is really kind of the confluence of supply and demand, and really reflects kind of the true commodity nature of the marketplace, and you can see it just these massive starting in July, or going from June at 0.7% on a year-over-year basis to plus 15 to plus 27 to plus 34. This series is really indicative of the strength that we're seeing in the market today. I mean, it just and by the same token, you could I suppose the first. If you look at kind of the leading of the lead, the leadingest of the leading indicators, the Wall Street guys were on it back in April, May, and June before anything else turned positive, except for cancellations. Cancellations dropped off.
You look right.
We thought that cancellations would be dragging a lot longer, and you look at acts, for hire, volume, less capacity popping in June. Kind of even before the spot rates took off. Our for hire survey, was picking this up. So there's a lot of interesting stuff here. I think it's when Jim and I did this in January and February of 2016, the objective was to create a something that would put a bunch of important metrics together all in one place where we could look at them in real time, as opposed to in hindsight saying, wow, why didn't we see that coming? Well, now we can see it coming, and so I think this has been a valuable tool in helping inform our analysis.
I still go back and look and say, well, yeah, you're like, okay, but that would do it, but not just one of these does it. Because I'm going back, my analytical part is saying, well, yeah, okay, right, the spot rate is it because it's saying what's the immediacy, whereas somebody all of a sudden has to drop in a requirement, so they have to order more, and then you say, well, then are the orders picking up to match that? Yeah, it isn't just one indicator. It's why we need all of these to help, inform decisions. And that's the thing. I still look at it myself as a person who would be a user more of it than a creator, on this. And you just say, okay, yeah, that's why I'd hire ACT Research, because I'm not tracking all of these. These guys are. But it is interesting that and I think, one question I have, because I always put myself still, I'm 4 months into this, I'm still more of thinking of a user. What kind of feedback, Kenny, did you guys get when you first started to put this out, the dashboard from our subscribers to this? What was the general reaction?
It was love at first sight. I think our subscribers immediately recognized the value of the dashboard as a tool, and it was something especially if you've got a manager or a director level person who's in the strat planning department of the company, who's reporting directly up to the CEO. This provided a very nice slide to add to the deck to help the CEO get their head around what the story was.
Yeah, no, I think you don't have to be the smartest guy about it, but you have to know who is the smartest guy, and you say, hey, I need this for my slide deck, and that's the way I still was sort of trained, is that you can't know everything, but you do have to know who does know everything in some of these aspects. I think that's the thing, and to me the proof of the pudding is when you stack it up and you do the 4 month offset and say, yeah, is this predictive? Absolutely. And I think that's what's interesting to me. We've been talking a little bit about nobody would have seen this happening in the pandemic, but in all the other, as it shifted, going back 6 years in time, it still holds true. So someone can use that and say that this is a proper indicator. And I know in my former life as a supplier, we were always trying to say, well, what do we say on top of, so that we don't get held out? And something like this would have been golden, because we wouldn't have been looking at all of those in such detail, and certainly not as an aggregate.
Yeah, and I would also add that we worked on this to get a lead time on orders, and orders lead production. So if this leads orders by 4 months, in a traditional cycle. And granted, I always, to digress, people that say it's different this time, and I know I've already said that today. The point is, every cycle, it's always different this time. But there is some consistency in the relationship between, basically consumer needs are consumer needs, regardless of what cycle you're in. And now I've lost. Lost my train of thought here. Doggone it, I digressed too deeply. Anne, can you help dig me? Oh, yes, I remember where I was. Which is this dashboard was designed to provide a 4-month lead, for orders. Actually, it was designed, and it turns out it provides a 4-month lead for orders. Well, orders typically lead production by 3 to 6 months. So this is giving you, say a 3/4 sneak peek into the future of, where production is going to be. So if you're a supplier, it allows you, even before the OEMs start seeing their orders, to be able to start saying, do we need to make sure our supply chain is in order, and make sure we have our ducks in a row, whether we're going up or going down. But it does, provides that extra visibility to hopefully allow the savvy user to maximize their profit opportunities, whether you're moving upstream or downstream.
And you look at it, and I kind of think back, okay, what was happening in that time of years? We were starting to get into the pandemic, and you're just saying, okay, yep, things were still throttled back from aspects, and I go back to consumer spending. I mean, we were still sort of not exactly. So it does seem to me to match up to say, when did we sort of flip around from things are still good, people are still spending money, freight still has to, somebody still has to move it. We may not be getting our hair cut, but we're using Amazon like crazy. I look at where I live in the city of Chicago, and I see more packaged good delivery trucks than you can imagine. And it has taken off like crazy, and it hasn't gone back. If anything, it's just more and more, which is good for trucking. Right? Which is
good for trucking. Yeah. It's going to be hard to stuff that genie back in the bottle, especially the e-commerce industry. Probably gained 3 or 4 years of market share in a single year, I don't think that rolls backwards.
No, it's the whole convenience factor, and you can't monetize it necessarily, but yes, you can. But just that mentality of, I guess this isn't so bad after all. I guess one question is, have you ever had anyone, come back and say, yeah, but we don't really think this holds water. We think you should, we like this idea, but why don't you add this indicator? What's made you guys keep it to these 3 different types and 5 in each instead of adding, 6 more? What makes you kind of hold true to saying this is still a valid way to look at things?
So our objective at the beginning was to do, maybe 9 indicators or 12 indicators, and kind of have 3 or 4 in each bucket, and we did expand to, we ended up with 5 in each bucket. Could we have put 10 indicators in each bucket? Yeah, probably we could have, but I think it's also kind of my used truck example earlier. There's a kind of a level of diminishing returns where our objective was to really find those leading indicators of demand, as opposed to coincident indicators or lagging indicators. So We did try to keep it to the most important indicators, and we also wanted indicators that were going. If you look at the ATA's loads index up here in row 15, or even the loads index relative to Class 8 population growth, kind of both of these indicators haven't changed through the course of the 13 months that you see up here on the screen, and is this adding value to the dashboard compared to more sensitive indicators, and so that was really a consideration when we were building the dashboard, and I think the speed at which you can see from February, and maybe I'll back up another couple of months. So November is hidden here. I can see. I'm not going to bother digging it out, but October, November, December. I guess December's hidden too. But October to February, kind of pre-COVID, the industry was just dragging too much inventory, on a volume basis, on an inventory to sales basis. Orders were running at half or 2/3 of production. So backlogs were falling. You can see what freight rates were doing, and just how absolutely overcapacitized the market was into the end of 2019, into the beginning of 2020, and we don't want to turn tragedy into good news, but that shift from consumer spending on services to spending on goods, as everybody got stuck at home, took what was going to be an overcapacitized slow slog through the course of 2020 as everything kind of returned to equilibrium, and you went from you can see we were running in that kind of low to mid single digits up into the pandemic, and then March, April, and May we get the high single digit, low double-digit negatives, and from April to July, in a period of 3 months, we go from a -10 to a 0. It just turned that fast. So
flipped, from your expectation, right? It's funny you mentioned yacht designing. This makes me think of being in a yacht race, and you can be in a really not very good position, and there can be a wind shift that you would never have expected, and poof, you can go from, we would call it the cheap seats, to being the first guy to the weather mark, and it should have never happened except but for, I look at this and this is like a major wind shift.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like New Zealand in the 7th day of the recent America's Cup, where the Italians found themselves in irons, and the Kiwis caught the flyer.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's one of those things, and as smart as you think you're going to be as predicting and understanding, and there's been huge sophistication on that part of it. Absolutely, you still go, wow, even local knowledge, even everything, it doesn't help, because something will come out of the blue.
Yeah, and I think and this might be a good place to wrap up this conversation, and I think your phrase local knowledge, while we don't have telltales, or maybe this is the equivalent of telltales on our sales to allow us to read the winds, and this is essentially local knowledge here, where we've taken some smart guys and put some smart ideas together and I think come up with something that we believe will continue to do a good job of helping guide kind of forward-looking decision making regarding the direction of the industry. So, Anne, thanks for the conversation today, and certainly everybody that's on the call. We're so pleased that Anne joined us at the beginning of the year. She's going to be a valuable addition, or already is a valuable addition to ACT's team of analysts, and we will be pleased to be adding her knowledge to our knowledge as we continue to move forward. Anne, thank you, and
thanks for the discussion.
Yeah, glad to do it, and it was enjoyable. Otherwise, have a great day, everyone. Cheers.
Ciao.